Good morning. This is Professor Anderson with a little bit of feedback for your writing assignment number 1, rough draft. So I like to share with students that I do a 2-phase, I guess you could call it that, review of work when I both assess and offer feedback. Well, I guess in a different order, offer feedback and then assess. So the first one is I just call the nuts and bolts. So I run through quickly and get a quick visual. The nuts and bolts, is the paper formatted correctly? Are all the components in order and present? And yes, so you pass the nuts and bolts. Then I go back for the nitty gritty or the fine tooth combing. And then that's when I look at each of the components. So let's take a look at this background information area. I love how you give a description of where you work, the type of work that you do, and how your workplace is organized. The only additional information that I would recommend that you give is like I'm unsure. On the one hand, you have your tech department divided into teams, but then you also describe how you have distance. So do you work remotely or are you in an office space? So that's where I was a little bit confused. So if you could just clarify that, like, how many people are physically located there? We have a team of 100, 50 of them are remote, 50 of them are in the office, because I understand that that's clearly, one of the barriers. The second element that I want to share with you has to do with a little bit of the nitty-gritty, and that's what's called subject-verb agreement. I want you to listen to this statement, or this sentence of yours. My team is called Corporate Systems because we support human resources, payroll, and finance departments, along with any interfaces to external vendors, which relies on data coming from these systems. So if I take a look at here, you have a subject-verb agreement issues. So we support human resource, payroll, and finance departments along with any interfaces to external vendors which rely on data coming from these systems. So we rely, and human resources, payroll, and finance departments rely on. So you want to check that. There were 2 other instances. I can't really find them right at this second. I'm sure before the end of the screencast, I will locate them. So part 2, you do great what's called parallel structure. So you have it formatted identically. Each of these are listed. They're signified differently. You have it in italics and a little larger font. And then you give a synonymous type of description of, so instead of having, language barriers, and this one a complete sentence with descriptions, and then this one, distance barriers, just a definition, you have all of them with the definition. So inside of this communication, or inside of this table where you're listing specific examples, the identification of a specific problem, then labeling it, and then describing how that problem connects to that, or why that problem is that label. Take a look at these. Yes, you have every Monday morning, our team has a 9 a.m. status call to provide updates on projects. The call only lasts 30 minutes, which is never enough time. But so here you're giving me a little bit more of an environmental barrier versus a distance, because you describe the fact that it's a distance barrier based on the analysis. You need to include that element inside of your communication barrier. So for example, every Monday morning, our team has a 9 a.m. status call, blank. The call provides updates on projects, blank. 50% of the team is located in the office, or 25% of the team is located in the Northeast corridor. The call only lasts 35 minutes. So in the communication, you need to give it an understanding of why distance is included. I understand it here because now here in the analysis, you tell me it's by phone, but you need to give that in the description too. And the similar types of things were here. And then finally, yes, you give a good description of how technology is causing our communications to change and morph, and not always in the most positive ways like we would think. But for the evaluation, it's with professional communication, it's more preferred to state the facts. Just keep it simple, Sally. Move to it's a very beginning statement. I rate our communications in our office, or I rate the communications in our office 70%, period. This is based on the inclusion of this and lack of that. So instead of giving me a description, I'm not looking for the history, and this paper is not looking for like the history of how technology is changing us. It's looking for the raw facts of what is what are the components of that 70%. So I hope that that was helpful, and I look forward to your final paper.